Ho ho ho, Merry Christmas! Today we will be surviving 100 days protecting a Christmas village in Minecraft. In this 100 days we're going to be experiencing a lot of battles, attacks upon our village, different monsters, as well as great loss. But the Christmas spirit is going to keep us alive, okay? So grab a snack, grab some hot cocoa, like and subscribe, and let's get straight into this 100 days. Things started off with me getting to choose my spawn location, and given that this is gonna be a Christmassy 100 days, I obviously just had to go with Snowy Village. I then got this text that said, "One day you had enough and decided on a journey to explore the world. You conquered snowy mountains and muggy swamps, avoiding husks in the endless deserts. You fight your way through a heavy snowstorm when you see dim lights up ahead. It's a village. Maybe they have an inn to warm up in." And that is when we spawned in day 0 into our very own little village. I was immediately greeted though by a suffocating villager who died immediately. I did try to save them, but they died anyway, so... But I then just wanted to get accustomed to the area as this will be my new home. I obviously went around looting a bunch of chests as I went, getting a few interesting things like some iron gloves, an iron helmet, even an iron sword, all just in the first day. There's also this really creepy looking church build that I was way too scared to enter. It was so dark in there. I just, looked at it, looked away, and went on with my life. But from what I could tell, we had a forest in the distance and really not much else. There was just like snowy peaks off to one side, maybe a frozen ocean, I have no idea. But it was a really good sign to see some trees, okay? And there were a lot of builds in this village, including one that was extremely far away from the rest of the town for some odd reason. But despite that, I did decide to speak to a few of the villagers to get to know them and, just learn the lay of the land before I decided where I was going to make my home. And that's when I made the decision to build right on top of this little hill. And so our journey starts. Wanting to make use of the little daylight that I had left, I set off to go and get some wood. But as soon as I got closer to some of the trees, I got some sort of a boss bar. What the hell is Frostmaw? And why is it so close to my village? I am scared. I don't want to be here anymore. So I quickly chopped down the tree, which took forever. I didn't have an axe yet. And night fell so fast. So I got my wood and ran back ASAP to get to bed. Day 1, I obviously was going to need a few more tools than just an iron sword, so I quickly set off to mine a bit of stone and made myself a stone pickaxe and a stone axe. But little old me didn't get enough stone for a furnace as well, and instead of mining one more piece of stone, I obviously just went into my little village and stole one from my unsuspecting villagers. But after that, I did set off to go and get some more wood, which I then again saw the Frostmaw bar, and I just hope not to see a demon, okay? I spent a long time getting wood, nearly the whole day before heading back, which is when I spotted a cave entrance near the little house that I mentioned previously that was really oddly far away from the rest of the houses, so I wanted to check it out, and it actually looks pretty promising, but I was not ready to venture into the caves just yet, so I headed back home and decided to start some terraforming on the little terrain beneath my bed before actually going to bed. Day 2 started off with some more terraforming. I wanted to flatten out this little area beneath my bed because this is where I was eventually eventually planning to build my house. But today I really wanted to set off mining, so I went into the cave I spotted earlier and immediately blocked off a section where I spotted a creeper. But then I went off on exploring, only to immediately fall into a hole. This was not ideal as there were two zombies very close by to where I fell. And you know me, I'm a little scaredy cat, okay? This is horrifying. But eventually, I sucked it up, I mustered the courage, and I charged at them. These were frozen zombies, and luckily it was extremely easy to kill them. I was definitely exaggerating a little bit in the difficulty that I thought this was gonna be. And then I started mining. I got a skill point, which is not something I actually knew was in this mod pack. But honestly, I am grateful. This skill tree thing skills up different types of things. So like your mining has a whole separate tree where you can get a 3% mining speed every time, as well as some fortune later on in the tree. And then another section of this whole skill tree thing where you can skill up different things like your ranged attack damage and stuff like that. So very cool. But the first time that I got this, I decided to go for a 1% resistance and the 3% mining speed. And of course, a lot of actual mining happened here. There was coal. A lot of coal. And eventually, after some more exploration, my pickaxe broke. So I had to go back up because I didn't bring any wood with me. It was nighttime, so I did have to run past a bunch of mobs into one of the houses to go to sleep. I started the day off by defeating a few mobs because I'm just so cool and awesome and totally didn't explode a creeper. Definitely not. Although eventually I did spot another creeper, this little guy with a backpack. So obviously, being super excited about that, I had to see if I could kill this guy. So I mustered up as much courage as I possibly could and made my way over, only to realize that this thing was the Flash. It was so fast, and I could not kill this thing before it exploded on me, which was very unfortunate as I would have loved to get the backpack that it was wearing. So I decided to head down into the mines to get some materials because I really wanted to build a house soon. I spent a lot of time in the caves, making my way through a bunch of tunnels, fighting off a few mobs here and there. Of course, it wouldn't be caving without them. And even eventually, after breaking a few of these little vase things in the mines, I found diamond boots. And yes, they did have Curse of Vanishing on them, but I'm not planning on dying anytime soon, okay? I might as well use them now. It's probably the only time I'm gonna have diamond boots, let's be real. Not to mention, I also got a bunch of skill points, which I did put into mining as well as a few other things. And eventually, after gathering up enough resources, I made my way back up in the middle of a new day. Day 4. And whilst most of this day was spent in the mines, I still wanted to do a bit of work. So I set off to go get some water with my brand new bucket that I made with my brand new iron. And I needed this water because food is scarce. This is a winter little land space thing and it's hard. There's no animals around. We are struggling a lot. So I obviously need to make a little farm. Your girl needed food and a farm was the best way I could think of getting food semi-fast. And from here on, it was time to start a base building. I did still need a bit of wood, so I set off, chopped down a few fir trees to get a little bit of a variety in woods and not only spruce. And then I obviously started my base. I wanted to go for one of those like A-frame triangle looking builds because they always just scream winter to me for some reason. And we were building for quite a long time. We built from day 5 all the way through day 9 as well, so it's been a while with the building, and I thought as you guys watch me put this build together, I can give 1 or 2 fun Christmas facts. And if any of these are not facts, you didn't hear them from me. Blame Google, okay guys? I'm not a Christmas historian, okay? Anyway, the first fact that I'm gonna be mentioning is that Christmas wasn't always on December the 25th. And yes, Christmas does celebrate the birth of Christ. It doesn't actually mention December 25 anywhere in the Bible. In fact, some historians think that Jesus was born in the spring, not even in the winter. And our last little fact for this building is going to be that Coca-Cola played a part in Santa's image. Older depictions of Santa from like the early 1900s depicted him a little bit more sternly, and there wasn't like a very standardized look for his appearance. The way that we know and love Santa to this day didn't really come into fruition until Coca-Cola made a little illustration of a jolly, plump guy in a very red outfit that people started just adopting that as his look. Of course, children, Santa is real. People just don't see him. Of course, that's why we don't really know what he looks like. Yeah, totally. Anyway, so those are just a few little fun facts about Christmas for you guys. I'll probably do a few more in this video later on. But for now, I did want to mention a few things about the build because obviously we're building right now. As I mentioned, we are doing an A-frame, majority spruce wood. The flooring is going to be stone mainly. It's gonna have cute little windows, a second floor, and majority of this build is actually made out of snow. I just thought it was very fitting for the whole, you know, snowy landscape. I did at some point almost get blown up by a creeper, which was in hindsight the most terrifying thing of this build that has happened. Well, actually, besides for this creeper, there was another very spooky incident. The great villager jump scare of 2025. And I'ma be real honest with you, I should expect to see villagers popping out all willy-nilly with this mod, but I really was not. So can you guys really blame me for, you know, almost pooping my pants because of this poor little lady? I also didn't want an exact A-frame shape for this house. I wanted a little bit of like a protruding little side space. I don't know what to call it. Just a little space where I could add some more windows because you know me, I love good natural lighting. And with a few final touches, the build was more or less complete for now, at least. We did not complete absolutely everything about this in this few days because I needed a few more materials, which of course is what I needed to do on day 10. So this day I started off by adding a few doors to this build because, you know, I was using dirt before, which isn't as efficient, so obviously I had to also get windows. So I set off on a journey to go and find some sand, which was not difficult at all. I actually really didn't travel very far before I spotted some sand, which I thought was gonna be more difficult given that there's snow everywhere, but we had this like almost sandy beach type area near our house, so of course I just went there, gathered up a bunch of sand just a little ways away from my base. But when I was out here gathering my sand, I spotted a tiny little igloo in the distance, and obviously I couldn't just leave it be, so I had to go and check it out. And this is where I saw this cute little sled thing sitting outside with a bunch of items inside, including fish and candy canes and just a bunch of cute stuff. But I obviously had to check out the inside of this igloo too, and it was, as expected, just your classic vanilla igloo that had the whole like villager conversion thing down in it. So I took the whole potion thing and made my way back up. I wasn't gonna do the conversion mainly because these are my backup villagers. If poop hits the fan up in the village, I have backups, okay? okay? When I made my way back up out of the igloo, I decided to give this sled a go to see if it actually works, and it is safe to say that yes, it does. This is my new mode of transport for the rest of the series, okay? Like, look at how fast it goes. This thing is so fun. I love it so much. But when I got back home, I obviously started smelting down my sand to start making some glass panes and finish off the rest of the build for now again. Because, you know, your girl isn't gonna get furniture for a while. I did also spend quite a bit of time just cleaning the area up, sorting out my chests a little bit, just making the lower part of my house a lot cleaner aesthetically, and making sure that I know where to find everything that I need. We're definitely not done. There's still a lot more like Christmas decorating to come, but we are unfortunately not that far just yet. Day 11 and 12 was spent securing the village a little bit, because these people are going to be relying on me to be their main protection. You know, besides all the warrior ladies in this village running around with swords, but we don't mention them, okay? This series is about me and Christmas, okay? So of course, I made myself a few iron tools, grabbed a bunch of cobblestone as well as wood fences, and just started with a random fence layout. This was not gonna be the prettiest and most efficient fence of all time, as long as it works, okay? That is all that I really cared about for this. I didn't get too extremely far with this, but I would say that at least about a quarter of the village is completely closed off. And I also made a pretty decent looking gate. Is it my favorite gate I've ever made? No, definitely not. Am I gonna speak more on this gate? No, also not. We're just gonna move on with our lives. Because, you know, I did not want to make this fence or the gate designs too complex, as I would rather spend more time on other buildings in the future. Day 13, I started off by making an iron chestplate and some iron leggings to complete my armor set, and I decided to go on a little adventure because I was in need of food. Yes, I did find the sled that did have a lot of nice things on it, including some fish, but this was not going to be sufficient enough for a long time. Another reason for wanting to explore is obviously to see if I can find some more seeds, because I would love to expand on my farmland. I found a few pumpkins and decided to head off into a random direction until eventually I spotted something very large in the distance. Frostmaw. As you can see, the boss bar is back and there's a really large creature like right over there. The legends are true and the creature is near, much closer to home than I originally expected. And I got so spooked that I immediately turned around and went back home. This is not something that I could face this early on. So instead of adventuring on any further, I spent the rest of this day just working on my fence, as well as also planting just a few saplings around because this place needed some more trees. Now I really needed to find some animals because not only was I going to need a lot of wool for decoration, I was also gonna need eggs and pigs and cows for all of their drops as well. But alas, before I can get these animals, I would need to make a little space for them. And I'm going to say this now, spoiler alert guys, this is ugly as hell, this is horrible, okay? But this is very much just temporary housing for these animals. I just need a place to keep them for now. So I made 4 pens, and although they're horrendously ugly, I'm just gonna have to live with it for now. And of course, whilst I was busy doing all of this hard work for the village, somebody just had to steal my sled. Like, girl, get your own. I was also, like, slightly too scared to break it at the moment because I was afraid that if I broke it, I would never see it again. So I just hoped that they would maybe get off eventually. Yeah. The next day, on day 15, we actually had a really successful day because, as I said, I needed to find some animals, and luckily for us, we already had pigs in the village, so that was extremely easy to get into their new pen. And I also already had potatoes, so, simple enough just to move them right along. I didn't even need a lead. And with these potatoes, we were also able to make a little baby piggy. So we already bred these bad boys up. But then the journey started to see if we can go and find any other animals. And I did go around and about a bit on the sled, seeing if I can find anything. And eventually I did stumble upon 2 chickens. This was probably the most time-consuming part about this day because this took ages. It was also slightly difficult because you know how it is trying to lead animals anywhere. But nonetheless, I did it. The chickens were safely brought into their new pen, and I also bred up to make a little baby chicken. But that's not all with these chickens. I got an egg, and I thought to myself, what are the chances that we get another little baby chicken? 100%. It was 100%. I threw that little thing, obviously almost killing my other little baby chicken, but we got 2 now, okay? Day 16 was the polar opposite in luck when it came to finding animals and other things, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Anyway, I set off and went all the way around and about on my little sled, searching to see if I can find any sheep or any cows. I saw wolves, I saw a bear, I saw more chickens and more pigs, but nothing that I needed. Eventually on this journey, I stumbled upon another frost maw, meaning we not only have 1 in this area, we have 2, not that far from each other, might I add. And I am way too chicken to go near these things. Instead, I can only appreciate their deadly beauty from afar, so I went home. Before it became dark, and luckily on this journey I did find a lot of sugarcane. I of course had to plant this sugarcane, make a tiny little sugarcane farm, nothing crazy, just enough to, get them growing. Also adding an infinite water source right near my base, which is very much needed. With the rest of the sugarcane that I did not end up planting, I decided to make a bunch of cute little Christmas decorations, my very first. And these were gonna be tiny little candy canes that I just placed onto the wall in the front of my build. It looked absolutely adorable, but the cuteness didn't last for very long because when I was in my base just minding my own business, I heard this. I don't know who thought that it would be a good idea to give something that noise, but clearly it was very fitting because, as you can see, I was in pure panic mode, rushing around to see what the hell was going on. At first I thought it was Frostmaw making its way into town, but I was very wrong. And I don't know if this is better or worse, but we had an invasion. A zombie invasion. And not just any zombie invasion either. This was a mutant zombie spawning a bunch of little zombie minions in my village, and I was horrified. I have never left this game quicker in my life. I straight up just got out of there. I could not play any longer for the day. And after doing a lot of much needed research on this mutant zombie thing, I learned that you can't kill this thing normally. You can only kill it by setting it on fire. So of course I just went to bed. Day 17 was game time. I woke up immediately making myself a shield and flint and steel, and I set off to go and fight this demon. Strutting all the way into town with as much confidence as I could muster, only for the thing to be gone. Like, it was just straight up out of there. I think it despawned. And I was genuinely so scared. I was debating just deleting the save file and starting from scratch. That's how much I did not want to go out and fight this this thing. One of my villagers did die though, R.I.P. Savka. And there was also a bunch of random loot around, and you know, I had to loot it. But this all scared me. It made me realize how ill prepared I am. I needed to prep this place more, so to the mines I went. I mined and explored caves until eventually hitting a dead end. So I went to another area and started mining downward to hopefully find some more caves. Eventually, I did strike luck with this, which usually I don't. When I do the strip mining thing, I rarely find caves. But I found this big ravine type area underground, and there was quite a bit of loot. I looted what I could, but unfortunately my inventory was pretty much full, so I had to turn back. So on the night of day 18, I returned to the surface and ran to bed. Today I set off to gather some wood, not only for more building in the future, but also for more protection around the base to get some fences. So I set off to go and start dropping a bunch of trees. I think I meant to say chopping a bunch of trees in my notes, but I said dropping, so I'm sticking with it. And after a little while of chopping, I heard something that got me very excited. Sheep! There were sheep in the area. And sheep are going to be very important in this 100 days for decoration and stuff, so I really desperately wanted to get these home. So I ran back to my base, got my wheat, and then sprinted all the way back again to the sheep's location. I then spent the rest of this day just leading the sheep back home to their little pen before feeding them and of course making another little baby sheep. Day 20, I went back to my wood chopping because, you know, I needed some more wood until eventually I had a few stacks full. So after chopping trees for like half the day, I set off and got some sand because I really wanted to make a greenhouse in a bit because farming was not going well with the snowy weather. My crops were not growing as fast as I would have liked, and it was really just very small. So I got quite a few stacks of sand as well and then headed back home and started smelting them. In this time I also made myself a glass blower table thing because with this I can make a bunch of different styles of glass, which I think would be fun for this build. The next day I started by tending to my crops, just taking the mature ones out and planting new seeds. I did this mainly also because I would like to get crops to breed my animals because I feel like I have been neglecting that for a while. So I got my crops and set off to my little chickens and everything, and I fed them all and bred them all up just to, you know, get the population growing. Eventually, I would also like to build them a nice enclosure because the fences are so ugly, but we'll do that later on. We gotta focus on this greenhouse first. There wasn't enough time in this day though to start doing that, so I just gathered up quite a few materials and continued on the wall for this village. I didn't really get very far with this today because night has fallen and I decided that this was the perfect opportunity to start lighting this place up. So I used up 2 stacks of torches on this place, and not everything is fully lit up either, so we're gonna need a lot more torches. But this was enough light for the time being because this also lit the space up enough for me to see this giant gaping hole in the ground with a bunch of little villagers that fell into it. These poor villagers were way at the bottom of this hole, and of course I now had a rescue mission on my hands. These villagers were not going to stay in this hole, and obviously I need to cover this up as well, but that's not gonna happen in the middle of the night. So day 22, I started my rescue mission. I went ahead and started mining down all the way, making stairs from the top to the bottom to where all of these poor little villagers were trapped. And as soon as there was a clear pathway, they started bolting. They all just started sprinting up, which I was so grateful for that they did that all on their own because I didn't know how else I was gonna get them all the way up there on my own. Once all of the villagers were to the top, I decided to just close this area off. I might explore it eventually if I don't forget about it. But for now, I'm just closing it off so no more villagers fall victim to this. But I then decided to start working on the backside of my house where I wanted to make the greenhouse. The only problem is that there is so much snow that it just makes it very difficult to see where I'm building. So of course I had to get rid of a lot of the snow before I could start. This took a lot of time and a lot of shovels. And also a lot of back and forth of me having to go in, make snow blocks because they only stack into 16 snowballs per stack. But luckily, eventually, I cleared a bunch of the snow, only for it to start snowing again in the night. This was infuriating, but I just had to press on. I went to bed and we're going to start building this greenhouse tomorrow. Day 23 all the way to day 27 was spent just building the greenhouse. This is a really big greenhouse. It's obviously not like anything huge or extravagant, but it's bigger than my little like A-frame house, so I'd say it's pretty large. And for this greenhouse, I did take inspiration from Shira Nam on YouTube. I do hope that I'm pronouncing the name correctly, but they built this beautiful greenhouse. I didn't copy it like exactly, but I did definitely take inspiration on the shape and everything, you know, just for the aesthetics. But anyway, something I've been noticing ever since I freed those villagers from that hole, they've been making themselves very comfortable in my house. Every so often I would find a new random person just chilling up in my house. Honestly, like, a lot of them are girlies. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm getting like a harem or something. That was until, of course, the men came here as well, and now there's a baby. There's a baby in my house. I don't know what to do with it. Please send help. I don't know. I cannot handle this. I don't know how to get them out of my house, okay? Anyway, building. We're focusing on the building. I think another reason this build took me quite a while longer than my little A-frame house, is because I'm not a big planner when it comes to building. I don't plan out the builds before I make them, and neither do I plan out my materials before I make them. I usually just go with the flow, think of what I want, and get a few materials for it and hope that I have enough, which more than likely I never do. I never have enough. So there was a lot of sprinting from one place to another, getting sand, getting wood, because we need a lot of sand and wood for this. So whilst we're building this housey again, I would like to give you guys a few more Christmas facts. And this time we're gonna be talking a little bit about Christmas trees, and these are actually an ancient tradition, and it has a lot of roots. You get it? Roots? Okay, anyway, ancient Egyptians used to mark the winter solstice by decorating their homes with little green palms. Well, I don't know if they were little, just like green palms. I do not know what the size of these palms were. And the Romans celebrated Saturnalia. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but they celebrated with evergreen boughs, and they signified that the spring would return with new life. And the first Christmas trees, as we know them today, started in Germany in the 16th century. And you can thank Prince Albert for your Christmas tree. Not that I think you're going to, and neither am I, but like I just mentioned, Christmas trees have German roots, and they really took off in popularity thanks to Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert. These little folks were sketched standing in front of their tree with their children, and it was actually very fashionable. Let me know if you guys have a Christmas tree, if you of course do celebrate Christmas, because I personally do. We have a little white one up, which is very cute, that I decorated with my boyfriend, and it was a lot of fun. But anyway, back to the build. As you can see, we are nearly done with this. We are now just at the end of the night going ahead and doing our little crops. I also didn't realize that I have not slept in a while in Minecraft, so of course we had those little flying demon things chasing me. I can't remember their names, but it was terrifying. So I had to sprint back and forth from my house to the greenhouse, obviously closing the doors behind me, before making this farm, planting my wheat, my potatoes, my pumpkins, everything in like a semi-organized area. Obviously, we do not have a lot of wheat seeds just yet. We only have 5, so I'm hoping for a lot more of those. Day 28 started with me just chatting with a bunch of the villagers, just trying to get my relationship up with them, as well as scope out a potential love interest for the future. I didn't spend too much time doing that, as I wanted to spend this day mainly just focusing on a bit of Christmas decorating, because this is, well, a Christmas 100 days. So I got some leaves from a spruce tree because I needed those to start making Christmas trees. So I took those leaves and the wood that I had just gotten and started crafting up some base Christmas trees, and then got some dye to make colored Christmas trees. I then placed them both right outside my house. I thought this looked so cute and made this base look so much more Christmassy. Definitely the vibes I'm going for this 100 days. I made a carpenter's table and placed that inside my house, as well as a few more candy canes for a decoration inside and outside as well. The next day I wanted to get some more wood, so I made a few stone axes and set off into the blizzard. There was still a bunch of mobs around, so this was a pretty scary venture. But I chopped trees for the entire day and also got a few new skill points, only to realize that I had 5. So I spent them all getting 2 more hearts, more resistance, and more move speed. Eventually it started getting dark and it was so hard to see the time of day changing, so I went back a lot later than I meant to, and there was so many mobs spawning already, but luckily I made it back safely. Day 30 I started by tending to my crops, mainly to get more wheat, because I then took what I got and went to breed my sheep. Also going ahead and dyeing 1 red and 1 yellow before shearing them. I really need to build them a barn soon, but for now I wanted to continue my wall extension. This took the rest of the day. I did leave a few areas open where I eventually want to put gates, but during the night I decided to start grabbing some dirt and filling up a bunch of holes in the village. Not just for the aesthetics, but also for safety, for mob spawning and my villagers suddenly disappearing into a black hole somewhere. Day 31, we had the worst start to this day. I heard the demon spawn again. My life is ruined. What's the point of building a wall if this thing just spawns in the middle of town? But this time I could not afford to be scared, though I still was. So I grabbed my flint and steel, got a bow and an arrow of slowness, as well as my golden apple. When I went out, he was hitting my villagers, so I ran up and he immediately headed my way. So I ate my golden apple, aimed my bow, and shot. He died! In 1 shot! I have never been more confused in my life. Like, what do you mean? I was so scared of this thing, and for what? Well, I decided to just move on with my life, so I went to test the hammer that I had just got, and almost got a heart attack from this, because what the hell? But life goes on, so I just went and got a bunch of materials, because I really wanted to start building my barn. So on this day, we started the build. I started by removing the initial cow pen, which has no cows because I have not yet found any, and then started with my layout, which is very simple. I just placed a bunch of little logs and hoped that everything worked out. But this build did take quite a while. We built from day 32 onwards all the way to day 37. And since I had so much stone, I did decide to build majority of this out of stone. Of course, I still wanted it to be very like Christmassy in a way, way, and I feel like wood screams Christmas for some reason, so we do add a bunch of wood beams to this as well. And I kind of just maneuvered my way around the pens that was already there because I didn't want to remove them and risk all of my animals just running around all willy-nilly. I also added some beams to the ceiling. Yes, there's no actual ceiling just yet, but this is the plan. We're gonna have some beams on the ceiling. I then started placing in my flooring, which took a little while, but once that was done, I did start making the little pens. Now, these pens are not gonna be big by any means whatsoever, but I am gonna make them a little outdoor space. You'll see in a second. So at least they do have quite an efficient amount of room, I would say. I luckily didn't have too hard of a time getting all of my animals into the pens. It was actually very, very simple. The hardest part was getting the chickens into their pen because they were not already partly in the building. But once all of the animals were in, I started on their outdoor areas, just adding in a little bit of extra fence space, and then opened up their little pens so that they can roam freely indoors and out. Once all of that was done, I started on the roof. The roof design was going to be very, very simple and also made out of snow because in this I have an abundance of snow. Too much snow to ever know what to do with, so of course I'm building most of the roofs out of this. And I also feel like it looks very, very nice if you place it in a way that looks more natural, because then once it starts actually snowing, it's gonna look even better. But once that was done, I was officially done building my barn. So the rest of the day of day 37, I wanted to start making some clear pathways everywhere, not only for the pathway itself, but also to have areas where there's much less snow. Because snow does not land on the pathways, meaning the more paths I have, the less snow I have. So I did that for quite a while, just shoveling and making pathways until eventually I needed to go and make some more shovels. Going inside, I saw one of my villagers getting attacked by a zombie. So of course, I had to quickly help her with that, kill the little zombie, saving her life and leading her back inside to where it is safe. Or so I thought, because heading back out to continue my pathways, there was another mutant zombie. So I quickly ran inside to prepare myself for this, getting everything I would need to kill him. And this is where the real battle has started. This was not the one-hit wonder of last time. This one was an actual struggle. And this took a while. I was fighting this thing all the way into the next day. So this entire night, I was pretty much stuck in my house trying to fight this demon, trying absolutely everything. He would hit me from inside my house. And when I finally was just even the slightest bit brave enough to go outside, he hit me into a tree. I was stuck up there for a while because I was way too scared to go back down. I did eventually make the move, jump down, and just went straight back inside my house, closing the door. And then I decided that, you know, I was gonna beat this thing now. This was a mistake. I went back outside, he hit me up, I landed on my roof, and trying to make my way back in, for some reason I thought running past him would be so smart. He killed me. I died. I died for the first time in my what was supposed to be a cozy 100 days of me just doing some Christmas builds. And of course he spawn camped all of my loot. I could not get it with him just standing there. I also lost my diamond boots because they had Curse of Vanishing. And I also had nothing on me and I still needed to kill this thing. So after making another iron sword and hitting this little fellow quite a few more times, eventually I got a hold of my items again, and this is when I take things much more seriously. I just spammed him with my hammer a few times. The hammer that I got from the previous one-hit wonder mutant zombie. And this actually hurt. The moment he hit the ground, I set him on fire. I was not taking any chances. But I did at least get yet another cool little hammer. This took nearly the entire day, so after I killed this mutant zombie, I went on and continued my pathways. The next day was mainly just spent doing some organizing, putting things on my chest and moving some things around, as well as doing a bit of work in my farmland, just getting some more food because you know I need it. I also did some more work with the pathways, as well as removing the rest of the temporary animal fences that was still up. It was starting to become dark and there was also a blizzard coming in, so I decided that this night I was going to head into the mines. So from the night of day 39 all the way to day 42, I spent just in the mines. I was tunneling, seeing what I can find, and eventually, after a lot of mining, I found this huge cave area. Now, don't get me wrong, your girl was pooping herself because this place was so big and I was so scared. But I did luckily have enough torches and enough tools, and I saw diamonds. Of course, I made my way down and I went straight to torch the place up because your girl I was so scared. I didn't want anything spawning in behind my back. And there was a lot of mobs down here. Eventually, I did start fighting quite a few of them off, and I got my very first diamond. After spending a bunch more time here, I had officially run out of my food bar, meaning I was very slow, as well as inventory space. So therefore, in the middle of day 42, I was back up on the surface and spent the rest of this day just sorting my chest, as well as getting some food, roasting potatoes and taking the diamonds that I got to make some armor. I just made some boots and shoes, and then I had only 2 diamonds left. Day 43 and 44 was mainly just spent decorating my house, making a bunch of new furniture, rugs, and decorations to spruce the place up a little bit, as well as adding a bunch of Christmas decorations around here because I am doing a Christmas 100 days. I also added a crib in my bedroom for the possibility if I ever do decide to have a baby with one of these villagers. But once I did that, I went to go and work some more on the wall, making some major progress, almost nearing the end until a raid started. Your girl just cannot catch a break. Do you see why we need a wall? Because this is going to just keep on happening. It's gonna be mutant zombies and pillagers, normal zombies, just all of the mobs. So of course, the only logical thing for me to do was run to bed. But I of course couldn't just relax for this day because my village was once again under attack and I needed to take action. So I immediately ran outside and followed my village to see where the commotion was. I was then greeted by these pillagers terrorizing my poor villagers, and I needed to kill them as soon as I could. So I took them on, actually not doing too bad. And then I saw their leader. Not wanting to kill this guy in fear of starting a raid, I decided to rather just lead him away. It took a while to get him very far away and even to lose him because he was so persistent in his chase. Eventually, I did lose him and I made my way back to see that one of my villagers had unfortunately passed away. So I killed the remaining pillager and then decided it was time to finish up this wall. I didn't want any more of these incidents in my base, so I spent this entire night closing up the wall and lighting up the entire village. And eventually, after a long while, I was done, besides, for the gaping holes where I'm supposed to make gates. Anyway, to end of the day, I decided to throw a chicken egg in my house and now I have a baby chicken as a pet. Sure. Day 46, I set off to go and chop a bunch of trees as I was once again in need of wood. So after spending a bunch of time doing this, I went to go and start a little watchtower. I knew this was going to be a very simple build, yet it still took a whole day. As well as the night too, I did build built in the night. And day 47 to 48 was all just spent building this gate as well as the rest of them. This watchtower was going to be the most complex out of all of the gates because it's a watchtower. The rest is going to be very, very simple. I somehow lost the footage of me building the rest of these gates. They are pretty ugly though, so you're not really missing anything, but still. Day 49 was spent remaking the old town square into a brand new one. It's nothing too complex. I just added a fireplace as well as some cute seats. This way the area is a lot more cozy and warm for the villagers. And I also added a little Christmas tree to the side because, again, Christmas. Then I also decided to repurpose the old pig pen into another cute seating area with fireplaces to keep more of the villagers warm. This one was just a little bit bigger as well, but yeah, I do feel like I needed to add this in because a lot of villagers were actually getting sick because of the cold. And with this, we had brand new little areas for warmth and socialization. The next day, I got some more spruce leaves and tended to my crops a little bit more to get some more potatoes because I had run out of food. I then used the spruce leaves to make some more Christmas tree parts, and I added another Christmas tree near the other seating area. I also added a big candy cane to the main meeting area, as well as made yet another cozy little seating area with another Christmas tree. I can't help myself, it's a theme around here. So we now in total have 3 cozy little seating areas. And I also went around and added some garland string to every single one of these, just to add a bit of a more Christmassy feel. Then at the start of day 51, I just went around making some more pathways to connect all of these up very, very nicely. I spent the rest of this day just getting some more wood. As we all know, I am always in need of wood. And as the sun was setting, I made my way back home again. Day 52, I decided that I was going to make my journey into the world. As I have barely explored any of this map thus far. Making my way through the forest, I stumbled upon a little tent and I found a bit of food and a bookshelf which I looted. I then went on again into the forest, eventually after a while finding a really big build. I was very cautious because this could have very easily been horrifyingly terrible, but curious, I made my way inside and it turned out to be a tavern. I, of course, had to loot this as well, and here I found a bunch of hay bales. I then met a guard here who I had a really nice chat with. His name is Mikhail, and I decided that I would have him travel back with me. So I got him to follow me, we jumped onto my sled, and I literally just drove really not far at all, and then I had to sleep on the ice that night. But the next day we made our journey back on the ice all the way to my home, eventually getting him inside, and when I let him move freely, he really looked like he was about to make his way back all the way to that tavern. So instead I decided to just set him to stay standing inside of my house because, you know, that's real nice. Take a man's freedom right away from him. But something I noticed when I came back was how bland the back of my house looks. So I of course had to make a little plan with that. So I decided to start a nice path from my house all the way to the other gate, planting some trees as well along the path and using some bone meal too to just liven the place up a bit. But as I was busy outside and I looked back, I saw pillagers. Like, help, why are they here? I just ran straight into my house and stared at them from inside in pure fright. I am too scared to kill these guys because I am living in a village. I do not want a raid here. So instead, I just looked at them, throwing things at my window and chat with Mikhail for a while, you know, with the demons outside. Knowing that the rest of my village was safe, given that we have a giant gate around as well as a bunch of light, I decided decided that it was time for me to start making some of these villager homes look a little better. One of my goals is to make every single one of the builds more cozy and better to live in for the villagers. Not rebuilding all of them completely, just making all of them look a little better. Day 54 was mostly spent just making this igloo look as cute as I possibly could. And I'm personally really liking the final results. It's nothing crazy, but I think it's much more homey. And I then spent the rest of this night also decorating yet another little igloo. That means 2 little igloo homes are officially fully redecorated and looking nice. Day 55, I started off by chatting up my new guest Mikhail, and I was doing really well. I got him all the way up to 50 hearts, and I then decided to continue my base renovations. So I made the other igloo pretty as well, and that took the whole day. But then during the night, I decided to do another little igloo. This one isn't as nice because it was so small, but I did my best, okay? I tried. With the size that it is, I really did what I could. Day 56, I went and chatted with Mikhail again, and he then dropped a book letting me know about the infected. This was quite frankly horrifying to read. It pretty much told me that my villagers are prone to getting a sickness that turns them into zombies, and the only way to cure this is to give them a golden apple when they start showing signs, or of course the classic way, when they are officially turned. So yeah, that really freaked me out. But nonetheless, when looking a few things up on this mod, I learned that you can make a bouquet to give to somebody, and they will then become your partner. So I decided to test my luck, made a bouquet, and gave it to Mikhail. He actually accepted it and agreed to be my boyfriend. Which, you know, that was really nice and all, but I was still really freaked out with the zombie shenanigans. So I of course had to go and check up on every single one of my villagers to make sure that none of them look sick. And luckily, they all looked in perfectly good health. Some of them were bald, which was a little concerning, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. But something horrifying did end up happening. I forgot to record the next few days, silly little old me, so here's a little recap. And whilst I'm doing this recap, I'm going to get a waystone and just make it all pretty. So on day 57, I really wanted to see if I can find some more cows, so I decided to set off again. And instead, I ended up finding another village. There was a lot of loot in this village. Of course, I had to take pretty much everything that I can, including a few extra diamonds. This village also had a waystone, so I can now travel from here to my base at any time as soon as I set up my own waystone, which I'm doing right now. And then day 58, I also spent doing some more looting at the other village. And I didn't stop there with the robbery because I decided to steal all of the villagers and bring them back to my base. Because honestly, the place they lived had absolutely no defenses. My place is so much better. So I spent the rest of the day really just trying to rally all of the villagers together and get every single one of them to follow me. And then day 59, I spent a long time getting all of the villagers back to my base, trotting through the forests. It was really scary to get them all back here. Everyone adjusted pretty quickly and they all looked very happy. And now we are back to day 60 and 61, which is what we just saw with this recap. Me just making the waystone area and making it all look really pretty. For the next long while, from day 62 to the middle of day 64, I went down into the mines once again. I needed a lot of resources, including gold, and I really spent a very long time in here. Luckily, with me lighting the place up so much previously, made it so that not as many mobs spawned, at least not in the main area where I entered the mine. And this is also where I then saw a little goblin man. And this little guy was the best thing to ever happen. I could give him my raw iron and get 2 ingots back from that. So, you know what? what a win. I think it's 2. It was 2 or 3. The gold was also good. I could also get ingots there. So I got a lot of resources from this little man. I also, nearing the end of my journey, got this like night vision thing. So I of course had to use it to see if I can get more resources with my night vision. But eventually, as mentioned, in the middle of day 64, I made my way up from the mines. When I got home, I put all of my new loot into the chests and decided that it was time for me to start bonding with Mikhail some more, as I was planning on getting engaged to him soon. So I gave him a few armor pieces as gifts, which I know that he loves. But first, if I wanted to start a family, I was going to need a bigger house. So I needed to gather some more wood. I could only chop a few trees as I spent most of the day in the mines, so there really wasn't much daylight left. But then day 67 was fully just spent chopping as many trees as I possibly could. Because again, I'm gonna need to build a base. I'm gonna need a lot of wood. The next day, I made an engagement ring. I thought it was time that I go ahead and get myself a fiance. So of course, I first had to give him a piece of armor as an offering before even thinking about giving him this engagement ring. And it actually worked. We were at a space in the relationship where he said yes, so we are now officially engaged. So I quickly made myself a mason table to make some prettier stone and got myself a bunch more blocks and resources because from this day on, I was going to do some house building. So day 68 to 72 is house building time. Starting off by literally demolishing a few homes that was in the spot I wanted to build. A little igloo as well as a little wooden house. Yeah, they had to go. I then started with the base of my build, just making the outer structure of how I wanted the base to be, the frame as you would call it. And then slowly but surely started building up my walls, this time out of stone as I think it's going to look cute, as well as maybe keep some of the heat in without burning the house down because it's all snow. And this one was also going to have 2 levels, this time a little bigger because I'm going to need rooms for this. I also added some fences on the porches outside, as I have learned my lesson with the previous home. I don't want any random villagers just taking over my house like the previous home. Your girl is done. I've had enough of that. No more randos in my house, only my husband and maybe future children if we have any. Then eventually it was time to start building the roof. This time I did a little deep slate trim to the roof and still made the rest of the roof out of snow, as I have an abundance of snow and I do think it looks really nice. Then after doing the entire exterior of the build, I started on the interior, adding the little beds, bedside tables, adding a dining table with some chairs, all of my craftsman tables to the upper floor, a little couch and a Christmas tree, and of course also a chimney. Because this is a winter build, of course we need a chimney for Santa to crawl down. And once the interior was done, I did some exterior decorating, making the garden space look nice, planting trees, bone mealing pathways, all that jazz to make it all look better. And I really like how it all turned out. So I decided on day 73 to give you guys a little tour, a walk around of my new home, and I make my way all the way around, showing you guys the entire exterior of the build on every single angle. As you can see, beautiful, just a really nice little winter home. As well as showing you guys the interior of this build. So this is what we have. We have the downstairs space with my little living room, the little like kitchen space, dining space, all that. And then making my way upstairs where we have the upper hallway type area, and then the future baby room. This is where we're gonna have a child. And then of course the main bedroom where we and my husband are going to sleep. The views in this room are beautiful, and yeah, that's pretty much the entire build. I am of course going to do a lot lot more Christmassy decorations in here. But anyway, now that that was more or less done, I went over to go and get Mikhail and get him to follow me to our new home. Once we made it here, I set him to move freely because here he can just move around the house without worrying that he's gonna disappear into the street somewhere. And this is when I crafted a wedding ring. It was time to ask this man to marry me. So I of course gifted him the ring and we are now officially married. I then started doing a bit more Christmas decorating by placing some string lights around the space, some Christmas stockings by the fireplace, some wood, as well as a few presents under the tree, making this place feel so much more cozy and Christmassy, which is exactly what I wanted. And that night, I went to bed next to my newly wedded husband. Day 74 started off with even more Christmas decorating. This time more around town. I placed some more Christmas trees, only one, but still. A few snowmen around the place as well, just scattered about here and there. No specific pattern to these, I just wanted the place to look more Christmassy. And then I decided it was time to try and make a baby with my new husband. I asked him if he was interested in procreating with me and he said yes. It asked me if I was sure and I of course said yes, and I kind of got a jump scare when he just started spinning and a bunch of hearts just popped out of his head. But anyway, just like that, bam, we had a baby. I had the option of naming this child, so I decided to go for something Christmassy and I called him Klaus with a C, so it's like Claus, but I pronounce it Klaus, because I'm not naming my baby Claus, there's just no way. Anyway, I went upstairs and popped the baby into its little crib, staring at it for just a few seconds, then going on about my life. I then went around town, adding even more Christmas presents around all of the Christmas trees I have in the area. This way it can make it feel like everybody in town is contributing to anybody and everybody getting a little present. And then as night set, I checked on the baby one more time and then I went to bed. Most of day 75 was spent outside working on my pathways. I wanted to make them look a lot better, connect up a lot of the pathways better because some of them looked real bad, especially in this more backside area of the village, which I really have not been like taking care of much. As well as doing some more pathways, I also added a bunch of bone meal because I think it really just makes the place look more complete and pretty. The whole area is really starting to come together a lot better and I am obsessed with my little village. I of course had to go and check on little Klaus again and it said that he was ready to grow. So I just went and right-clicked on the floor with my little baby and bam, he was now a little infant-looking thing. He definitely takes after his father with his brown hair and purple eyes. I started off day 76 by checking on my crops, just planting some more seeds to make sure that I have enough food for the rest of this video. I also added another like little fence with some gates to the back of my house, or well, my old house, as I noticed a lot of villagers kept opening the door and leaving it open. And the last thing I want is zombies coming into my village because of some little villager. And on this day, I also decided that I was finally going to build up the courage to go and check out the creepy little church build that has had me curious since the day I got into this village. I first made my way up and there really wasn't anything in here to be afraid of. It was just a bunch of empty floors. But then I decided to make my way down into the basement. And it felt like a never-ending descent down. It was so many stairs and I was so scared. And this is when it got creepy. I don't know what those spawners are for, and I sure as heck do not want to find out. So I just made my way back up again as fast as I possibly could. Day 77 was the day that I was finally going to set off and find cows no matter what. So I ran into a random direction that I have not really explored yet, and it did look quite promising, like the type of space where cows would usually spawn. Just covered in snow a little bit. And yet I still saw none. So I just kept running and running until eventually I spotted a cow. I only saw one and it was nearing the end of the day, so I went to bed. Luckily, when I awoke, I noticed that there were many more cows around, so I decided that I was going to get these bad boys home. And it took quite a while. From day 78 to 79, I was busy getting these cows to my house. I did find some more cows along the way though, but it really was a struggle and I had to get them to these pens. Eventually, however, I did manage to get 6 of them into the pens and bred them all up, so I now have 9 cows in total. But it was great nonetheless, as I can now finally start making an enchanting area. I then made myself a diamond pickaxe, a diamond axe, as well as a sword. I thought that making a few tools would be a lot better than completing my armor set, and I still needed to keep out at least 2 diamonds to make the enchanting table. On day 80, I went to a lava pool nearby and got a bit of obsidian to make the enchanting table. But then, as I went back home, I heard a cat. And I knew that I had some fish, so I got the fish and went to tame the kitty. Eventually, after a bit of chasing, because I'm not patient enough to wait for him to come to me, I got myself a new little friend. I then went and got all of the materials that I need and crafted an enchanting table, as well as getting a bunch of the books that I looted from the tavern a while back when I met Mikhail. I then got yet another cat that was wandering around near my house. So of course I tamed him and brought him in as well, and now I have 2 kitties in the span of one day. And then I started setting up the enchanting area, placing the table, the books, as well as a few barrels and an anvil, completing the enchanting area for the time being until I get some more books. I started off the next day by chatting with Mikhail and then wondered if it was maybe possibly time to have yet another baby. So I asked, and the same prompt popped up asking me if I was sure. Of course, I said yes, and bam, we had another little baby, a girl this time. I decided to name her Snow for very obvious reasons. I placed her in the little crib close to baby Klaus, as well as giving him a bit of attention before going along my day. I went and grabbed all of my sugarcane from the area beside my old house to clean that area up, and then also went and killed quite a few cows, obviously after making some more babies. Then I made a brand new sugarcane area much closer to my house where I actively play, so that they can hopefully grow a lot faster. And I was also able to make 2 more bookshelves to add to my new enchanting area. And the rest of this night was spent making some more of the villager homes cozier and more Christmassy. On day 82, I went inside my house to find that baby Klaus has finally aged up into a slightly bigger baby. He can now run about and speak. So I decided to also go and check on Snow, and yes, she was indeed also ready to grow. This time I took her downstairs and aged her up there, so now she's sitting in the living space, and she kind of, unlike her brother, took after me, more with the brown eyes and brown hair. I wanted to go and get some more wheat for my cows, so I passed through my old house and saw a bunch of villagers just jumping into the fire. I have no idea why they're doing this, but yeah, it's none of my business, so I just went on with my day. I got my wheat and I went away. I crafted 2 more bookshelves and added them to my enchanting area, bringing the level up to 24. And just like yesterday, the rest of this day was also spent just making some more of the villager homes pretty. But it did not end there, because on day 83 to 84, I also spent making more of the houses pretty because I really wanted to make as many of them pretty as I possibly could. And yeah, as you can tell, there's not a lot of days left. So I ran about adding as many pretty decorations and really sprucing the places up as much as I could. On the night of day 84, all of the houses looked really pretty. They all had a little Christmas decoration. I love how it all turned out. It looks like all of the villagers came together decorating their homes for the Christmas season. Now on day 85 to 87, I spent all of these days going around the gates and shoveling all of the snow. This way, I can not only make it look better with the bone meal and planting trees and adding some more torches, but I can also ensure that there will be less snow and no mobs will be able to jump over if the snow becomes to a high enough level for them to do that. In the meantime, during the nights when I was a little bit too afraid to do this outside, I focused on the pathways inside of my base, and I made them look a lot better too, connecting them all up, as well as adding more torches and bone meal. And trees, of course, I can't forget about the trees. So I would say the village is pretty much more or less complete in the sense of pathways and so on. On the morning of day 88, I noticed that Snow is also a bit older and can now run around. So I of course needed to get some wool to quickly make her a little bed. I placed it in their room and then went and got some more wood as I wanted to finish this enchanting area. On the way back though, I had the brilliant idea to grab a little penguin and bring it back to my base. But I then crafted my bookshelves, placed them in, and realized that I did it wrong, so I redid it, and finally I could enchant my gear. And I'ma be so for real, I really didn't get anything great. It was like really mediocre stuff, but at the very least, I got it enchanted, and I did not have the XP to like redo it, so I just sticked with what I had, okay? Today, I really wanted to go and get some more penguins because I think it would be so cute if there's just a bunch of penguins roaming around the village. So I went and gathered up the rest of the penguins in the area and let them follow me with a bit of fish, as I noticed with the one that I brought yesterday that they do like them some fish. When I got to the village, I bred them up and they made little baby penguins. I really wanted to see the babies, so I genuinely just followed the penguins around until the little baby popped out. And they're the cutest little things, like OMG, look at them. I love them so much. This was the best decision that I made in this entire 100 days. From day 90 to day 92, I decided that I wanted to build a big Christmas tree with a bunch of custom ornaments and lights and stuff, not like the others that I just craft with some materials. I wanted to make my own tree. For that though, I did need a lot of glass and I had completely ran out of sand. So of course I went off and got a bunch of sand to start smelting that. And as I put that in the furnace, obviously it needed to smelt. So I decided to travel through the waystone to the other village where I stole a bunch of the other villagers. I wanted to teleport here because I needed flowers and there really wasn't any besides poppies and daffodils, I think, near where I live. And luckily they had a bunch. They really had a ton of different colored flowers, so I was lucky enough to get those. So I went all the way back home and I turned all of these flowers into a bunch of dye because I was gonna need these to make my ornaments, and that's also what I needed the glass for. So of course I started crafting up a bunch of these ornaments, and then I started building my big beautiful Christmas tree. I made it pretty big to have a lot of space for decorating, and of course that was the next step. So as soon as the tree was done, the ornaments were going on, And I do have to say, I love how this turned out. It is so, so cute. Definitely the vibes that I wanted for this. And I do need to thank my boyfriend for actually giving me the idea to build my own Christmas tree, because I did not even think of that. But one of my worst fears did happen in this time. A zombie somehow made it into my village. I have no idea how, so I do need to figure that out a bit later on, but luckily this has been the only incident so far since I put up the gates. But yeah, once the tree was done, I had a lot of ornaments left and decided to add them around on the other trees in the area, as I think this added a lot of vibes, I don't know. And of course, I then added some presents under the tree and ran along and added torches to the roofs of the house, as this is the only place I can think of where a zombie would be spawning. When I went home to go to bed, I also noticed that Klaus and Snow are really growing up. Klaus is a teen and Snow is a child. On day 93, I decided that I might as well have one more baby, seeing as Klaus is almost leaving the nest. So I asked, and yes, we got another baby, another little girl, and I of course named her Holly. I placed the crib back down, as I had removed it, not thinking I was gonna have another child, and I popped the baby into the crib. I then ran around gathering some more penguins and breeding them up. I love seeing so many penguins in my town. They bring such a nice addition. Like, look at all of them. I can't. They're so cute. I literally spent this entire day breeding penguins. What is wrong with me? Day 94, I was on my way to check on my crops when I saw a wandering trader. I actually thought it could be nice to get some llamas. So of course, I murdered this poor man and took his animals. I led them to my barn, put them inside, and got myself some carpets from my home. And I then went to try and tame them. This actually took a lot longer than I expected, but eventually, after some time, I got them to love me. And I gave them each a little carpet, one red and one white, for the Christmas theme. Sticking to that theme though, I decided to fix my torch problem because there was a lot of them everywhere, and they don't necessarily look the best, though they do get the job done, but I did want to fix it a little bit by adding some new light sources. So I grabbed some white and red wool, and you can maybe tell where I'm going with this because I started making candy cane lights. I did this all the way into day 95. I made some more lights when all of a sudden I got the achievement that my child is now an adult. I went and immediately kicked him out of my house. I know that seems cruel, but I was kind of hoping that he would maybe find a love interest and start having his own little family and whatnot. It's fun to see the village grow. I gave him some fishing rods and gave him the job of fishing. Then I continued on with my lights. I made quite a few of these all over the place. It didn't really get rid of my torch problem, but it did make things look prettier, as well as getting rid of at least a few of the torches. On day 96, I was in desperate need of food, so I went and harvested some of my crops. I put my potatoes in the furnace and made some bread, and whilst I was waiting for the potatoes, I walked outside and saw this random baby. I was really curious about the baby. Obviously, I wanted to know whose baby this was, so I went to check and I accidentally hit the child. This was a huge mistake. My whole village started to attack me, and great heavens, they do a lot of damage. This was probably the most scared I've been in this entire Let's Play. Even more scared than when the mutant zombies showed up, because this is my town. I need these people to like me. So I literally just ran out of the village until they stopped chasing me, because they chased me for a while. Eventually I could go back, but lesson learned, never hit random babies. And when all of my potatoes were done in the furnace, I just went to bed. On day 97, I decided that it was going to be the perfect day to head off on a little adventure, wanting to see what else the world holds these last few days. So I set off into a random direction, really not finding much of anything but ice for a long time. And eventually, I got mail. I didn't even know this was a thing. However, it was not at all good news. Apparently, in this one day that I was gone from home, Holly had died. I didn't know that was possible. Like, what? How? I thought I could trust Mikhail with his own child. Apparently not. And I was honestly so sad about this, but I was so far away. So I decided to check on this little house before heading back. And I am very glad that I did. However, I managed not to record this. So I'm just gonna have to tell you what I found. I found a little gingerbread man. Then on day 98, I ran all the way back home with this little guy and I found Holly's grave. Real fun. So to cope, I had another baby. Yes, very sane. Anyway, I'm back to actually recording again. I decided to make a nice proper grave for Holly as she was one of my children. And I genuinely was not expecting that. I am actually real sad about it. So here we have a little headstone and I made her a little sign and put her little bone into the grave. And may we have a moment of silence for my Minecraft child. There we go. May she rest in peace. Day 99, I decided to do some last little Christmas decorations around town, just adding some more ornaments to some of the trees. I also bred up some more of the penguins and then just admired my village for a while for how far it has come. I spent the rest of the night with my little family, cherishing what I have and what I have lost. Winter, the other baby that I had to cope, yes, his name is Winter. He was also ready to grow. He is a cutie with brown hair and eyes. But with that, I went to bed and woke up on day 100. We made it, y'all. We made it all the way to day 100, protecting this village. So of course I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a tour. I started at the way upper gate of the area and making my way to the greenhouse. This was one of the longest builds probably, I think, because it was early game. I needed a lot of resources for this bad boy. But I am really happy with how it turned out still to this day. I love it, and it is really close to my first build, my A-frame home. Now, of course, we've seen this a bunch. This was like majority of the video. I still love it, and I am still happy with how this turned out as well. Now, let's walk back towards the upper gate. On this path, we have a cozy little fireplace to keep the villagers warm, as well as a few homes before you reach this top gate. Then turning back past what we just saw, this is where the barn is. Here I have all of my animals. We have our chickens, our little pigs, the new additions, the llamas, our sheep, as well as our cows, which I never thought I was gonna have, by the way. And then coming back out here, this is where we have the town square. We have another cozy little fireplace area here where we can sit and just admire the surroundings. Of course, as well, the beautiful tree we recently built. Obsessed with this. It's probably my favorite part. And then also our little waystone area where we can teleport to like one other location. And then to my house. I'm not going to go through this again because I did do a little tour when I built it. But this is my home. And then right next to this we have my sugarcane. And then right next to that we have my little enchanting area, which is very crowded. Past the enchanting area is where we have Holly's little grave and some more villager homes over here, which are all decorated. Towards the other side of my house, we have some more little villager homes, as well as our little watchtower, which I have not used once. Then we make our way over to our last little cozy fireplace area where more villagers can just sit. We do have a little golem buddy here as well. Now we can walk around the back. This is like the back of the base in my head. I did not do a lot of effort over here. Towards the last gate, aka also the first gate that I made coincidentally. And now circling back past some more villager homes, all also decorated with some Christmas decorations, we make our way back to the A-frame home. And that is everything. This was a very, very fun Let's Play, or well, 100 days. It was cozy, it was chaotic, we definitely had our ups and downs in this, but I think I made the perfect little Christmas village. Let me know, of course, what do you think of it? Do you think I did a good job or not? Because I kind of think I did. I don't know, I might be biased. And which part of this is your favorite? My favorite, of course, is the town square with the beautiful tree. Speaking of the tree, here it is in the night time with the lights on. Absolutely adore this. But now I am going to go off to bed and end the final 100 days. And that is all for today, folks. Again, Merry Christmas to everyone who celebrates. And let me know, of course, what you guys thought of today's video. Do you guys want any more 100 days in the future? If so, let me know what you guys would like to see. But thank you all so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy today's video, please do consider liking and subscribing to my channel, as it really does help me out. And I will, of course, see you all in another video. Goodbye, everybody.